Ahsoka Tano, you have been charged with sedition against the Jedi Order and the Republic itself.
What's up, everybody who loves that scene and Bill? I'm gonna share some Ahsoka here. So psyched to share these scenes because a lot of people haven't really dug into Clone Wars the way I have, and with the Ahsoka show out, you know, people get to know Ahsoka. She's untrusting and she's so hardcore, and she's this hardcore rebel. And where you really find out how that happened, because she started out as this sweet Padawan of Anakin in Clone Wars, but these are the scenes that really kind of build her character, and it ends with one of my all-time favorite scenes anywhere in any movie. So this whole thing starts with some terrorist has attacked the Jedi Temple and bombed the Jedi Temple, and people have died, and whoever did this crime framed Ahsoka. And so Ahsoka, she comes before Palpatine presiding for whatever, the whole Republic, and they're charging her sedition, which is insane because she's everybody's favorite young Padawan, and here they are charging her with sedition. So and this just gets worse and worse. Let's see how bad this gets.
This court will decide your fate. Prosecution, you may begin your arguments.
Former Padawan Tano, I shall prove that you were the mastermind behind the attack on the Jedi Temple, and that once your accomplices carried out your orders, you eliminated them one by one. When you are found guilty, I ask the court that the full extent of the law be brought down upon you, including penalty of death.
Look at this. Tarkin. Okay, Tarkin's in the house. He rolls up, charges her hard, tells her that they're going to execute her when she's found guilty. When you're found guilty, they're not even giving her a chance. They're so hardcore with Ahsoka. Well, what happens, of course, at the last minute, Anakin drags in the actual criminal, who is Barriss, who is this other Jedi. She doesn't believe in the Republic, and that's why she's done this, and she's framed Ahsoka. And yeah, Anakin hunts her down, finds her, drags her in at the last second, and then Ahsoka gets off. So now let's see what happens next. So she's standing here, the Jedi, the whole council, everybody, they're going to execute her. And then they say, oh, actually, it turned out it was this other Jedi instead. So they bring Ahsoka into the council, and they're going to talk. Like, what would you do at this point, right? If I was Yoda, I would be, I'm so sorry, Ahsoka. We made the hugest mistake. I can't believe, contrite. The whole council should be on their knees begging forgiveness, right? So let's see what the Jedi Council does.
Ahsoka, I am so sorry about everything.
You have our most humble apologies, little Ahsoka. The Council was wrong to accuse you.
You have shown such great strength and resilience in your struggle to prove your innocence.
This is the true sign of a Jedi Knight.
This was actually your great trial.
Look at this. You see how they spin it? They're like,
Was
yeah.
it or no? It's bullshit.
They're spinning it. They're not taking any responsibility for just being this close to executing her on because she was framed. Plo Koon, who's the Sam Jackson Jedi again? What's his name again?
The name. Windu.
Windu. Yeah, Windu. He's taking no responsibility. He's like, actually, Ahsoka, this was your great trial, and you passed the test. It's like, no, this was the Jedi Council, like, screwed up big time, didn't support their own.
Now we see that. We understand that the Force works in mysterious ways, and because of this trial, you have become a greater Jedi than you would have otherwise.
Right.
Back into the Order. You may come.
Look at Yoda. Come on.
They all cover up.
The audacity. The audacity. Welcome back to the Order, Ahsoka. Come on home, Ahsoka. After all that.
Nobody said I'm sorry.
Say, Yoda, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's all I have to say about this. Should be ashamed of yourself, Yoda.
They're asking you back, Ahsoka. I'm asking you back.
I'm sorry, Master, but I'm not coming back.
Badass. So badass. Now, why, all the years later, post-Mandalorian, post all that, why is Ahsoka still out there in the galaxy when we get to the Ahsoka show? This is why. Because she leaves the Order.
This is the moment.
Because we know that the Jedi all get exterminated when Palpatine reveals himself to be the Sith Lord and they execute Order 66, which is to kill all the Jedi. They kill all the Jedi, but she's not around because of right now.
She bounced.
Ahsoka, wait! Ahsoka, I need to talk to you! Why are you doing this?
The Council didn't trust me. So how can I trust myself?
What about me? I believed in you. I stood by you.
I know you believe in me, Anakin, and I'm grateful for that. But this isn't about you. I can't stay here any longer. Not now.
Yep. Hardcore. The same hardcore Ahsoka. That's who we get to see. Played by Rosario Dawson in the new Ahsoka show.
The Jedi Order is your life. You can't just throw it away like this. Ahsoka, you are making a mistake.
Maybe. But I have to sort this out on my own. Without the Council. And without you.
I understand. More than you realize. I understand wanting to walk away from the Order.
I know.
Yeah, because he's got a whole thing, right? He's seeing, he's married secretly to Padme, right? And then we know how that all turns out.
I think the Jedi Council leaves a lot to be desired. Seems like any other bureaucratic organization.
Right? Yeah, and this is how we get Darth Vader, right? That's where it's headed for Anakin when they part ways here, but not just yet. So yeah, Dave Filoni, he directed. I mean, he was in charge, overseeing the whole of Clone Wars, all 7 seasons. This story of Ahsoka. This is kind of getting towards the end of her story. So after that, she goes off into the universe. She falls in with has various adventures, meets various people. She meets up with Bo-Katan, right? Who we know from The Mandalorian, super badass Chickalorian. Some may call her. Bo-Katan, super badass, and she comes to Ahsoka asking for help to free Mandalore from Darth Maul, of all people. Like, so many Star Wars lovers haven't even seen these parts of the story that are amazing. And so she's going with Bo-Katan to try to get help from the Republic. And Republic, she hasn't spoken to the Republic in a long time. They don't consider her a Jedi. Yoda and the other Jedi don't give her a warm welcome, but Anakin gives her a warm welcome. And the clones, who she had been the general of the clones, right, fighting with the clones for years in the Clone Wars, they know who she is. They trust her. They have allegiance to her. And so this is, for me, one of the most moving one of the most moving scenes. I mean, it's a cartoon, whatever, but this is like many seasons in, like I don't know how many hundred episodes to get to this moment where they show their love for her, and it happens in a way that's a no dialogue way. It happens through symbolism, through shapes, and you're about to see it, and that's just, to me, it hits on a really primal level. But you have to be paying attention to see what they do to welcome her back, the clones. So basically, she's back on the starship with Anakin and going to meet the clones for the first time since she came back, before they launch off on this mission to Mandalore to try to free Mandalore from Darth Maul. So this is kind of her first moment seeing clones again.
They shouldn't salute me anymore. Not since I left the Order.
It doesn't matter to them. It's a sign of respect. They know what you went through for them, day after day, battle after battle. Loyalty means everything to the clones.
Company! Attention!
Go ahead. They've been waiting to see you. As soon as Rex and the guys knew you were back, they got to work.
The paint job's a little crude, but we think it gets the idea across.
You see what they did? You get it?
Something with the color scheme?
Well, they painted all their helmets to match her markings.
To match her
on
markings.
Her face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back, Commander.
Rex, thank you. But you don't have to call me Commander anymore.
Sure thing, Commander.
Mm-hmm. And it's just so powerful for me because it's just a primal thing to communicate something only through symbol. Basically, it's coming through because of the shape that they painted, matching the shape of her markings.
Mm-hmm.
It's creating an emotional response without any words. They're showing with those shapes and colors that they have love for her and they're committed to her, and it's just like that kind of storytelling. And it's such hard storytelling because you have to have so much exposition and setup to get to where you can get a point across without explaining, without the dialogue. But when it happens, basically as a viewer, if you get it, you basically understand things in a way that like is a pre-language way of understanding things, like the way babies understand things, or the way probably we understood things way back in human evolution when language wasn't that complicated. It's hitting on this super primal level and conveying this message on a level that's super tied to the emotions. And it happens in a place, like the understanding of it happens in a place in our minds that isn't the same place that is a deeper place than our normal everyday, back and forth. So super powerful scene. And then not in this episode of Love That Scene, but maybe in another one, I'll show what happens next, which is the most badass fighting scene ever with Ahsoka. So yeah, that's one of my favorites from Clone Wars.
Well, I like it, especially this last part, because it's not radio, right? Like you can't, if you're not watching, paying attention, you're not going to get it because the dialogue isn't telling you what to be looking for. You have to be watching, right? So it grabs your attention. Yeah, I don't know the show very well. I've watched some of the first season. The animation is unbelievable. At this point, it's certainly improved from the early episodes of the first season that I'm probably more familiar with. I especially like there was a shot where It's they you have the helmets of the guys, the back of their helmets in the foreground as she's walking past. You kind of like find her. Um, they just have really good. That's a
This one?
shot right there. They just have really good perspective.
Yeah.
And camera
and
angles
camera
that they
angles that
choose
they
in this
choose in
like
this like
3D cartoon world. Um, so I dig it. It's really very powerful cinema created. Even though I'm not like the biggest fan of cartoons, but I noticed that the later seasons of this Clone Wars is the animation is very sophisticated. And I also, the Bad Bunch is where I saw, is it Bad Bunch? Yeah.
Bad Batch.
Bad Batch. The Bad Batch was like the pilot of that was where I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, this is like next level cinema. The lighting, the shading, like stuff that they're doing and the angles. Also the shallow depth of field. Like they're doing a lot with the cameras that it's very exciting. Regardless, even though like I think my gut, even though it's like cartoons are for kids, it's still, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but um, it's the cinematic character of this cartoon is so strong that I would say it's definitely worth watching.
And it's funny too because you can kind of see it almost looks like when the show starts, they're kind of like kicking it around saying, okay, is this going to work? Is this going to be good or whatever? Because progressively as the scenes pass or
Yeah,
the seasons pass, it gets
yeah,
better and better. Like
it
middle
gets
of
better.
the show, I don't know, season 3 and 4 is like way better than first season. But then like
Yeah.
by the end, it's like amazing. And then you can just see Filoni just killed it so much to the level that now he's at Disney. He just did recently Tales of the Jedi, and that's like the
Mhm.
same style, but even doper, even doper. The textures, the lighting, it's just like so amazing, just luscious. And I love this too, Clone Wars, because like Lucas came into this saying, okay, I have this huge story to tell, Clone Wars, and I need somebody to tell it, or I need to tell it somehow. I don't know if he couldn't get funding or what the deal was, but it's just too big of a story in a way to do, especially back when they made it to in a
Yeah.
film setting. And
Attack of the
he found
Clones.
Dave.
Like just that was the beginning of the Clone Wars, right?
Yeah, yeah, it all weaves
Episode
together, kind of like
two.
the MCU. Like it
Yeah.
kind of alternates back and forth. And he found Filoni because Filoni, I guess, was Filoni made Last Airbender, which is like a beloved epic cartoon on Nickelodeon, and Lucas found him on that and invited him to do this. And then he did such a good job, that apparently got more and more funding, and it started looking better and better. And then he got to direct, I think, the pilot of The Mandalorian. So what you're talking about with like his blocking and like his cinema storytelling, Favreau, who leads Mandalorian, knew that Filoni, he saw that in Filoni and had him direct his first live action movie ever or show, which was the pilot to The Mandalorian, super high stakes episode of TV. But yeah, he got it all. I mean, you get so much from doing this, and as you watch Clone Wars, like you don't even know that you're watching cartoon after a while. You just get so into the characters and into the story. Like in the beginning, it's like, am I watching a cartoon? But after a while, you're just watching Ahsoka's story play out. And one last thing I was going to say about that kind of symbolism and non-dialogue scene is for us, Bill, like we'll be sharing our films at some point on this channel, and our last two shorts, Obituary of Jasper James and The Birds of Jade Rock, they both, the final act has no dialogue in both of them, and it's just, if there's enough exposition moving through, I think we show that you can get to a place where you can convey something super deep and super involved in the story without the dialogue. And I can see, this is definitely one of my inspirations. And yeah, I love that kind of filmmaking. Like you said, you have to pay attention. It's a lean in. You can't just be like checking your phone and it's kind of playing in the background. Like you have to be in a theater or in a home theater or whatever, headphones totally dialed in, and then you get the prize of giving it that kind of attention. You kind of a very transporting experience. So
Yeah. I mean, I think
that's
it's
it.
one of the things that makes film, right? I mean, you know, then it's you could obviously do it in on the stage. You could do some sort of non-dialogue pantomime type of stuff, but it's not the same. Like film, you can take various motion images and edit it together that tell a story that can go all over the place in the moments, right? And so I think that, you know, the shot selection, the lack of dialogue, just using the visuals, it's like one of those things that makes it, it's like, are we making radio? Or are we making, you know, cinema? And then the answer is cinema in this case, because they went silent or just, you know, went all visual. So thanks for showing me this. I would never have seen it. I mean, not never, but it's hard to get to late seasons of the Clone Wars. There's just a whole lot of episodes. But I highly recommend it for people who have time, you know.
Yeah.
So
it's
thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, and then after Clone Wars, it's so sad because it's over, and you're like, no, it's over. And then you kind of dig through and you see this show called Rebels, and you're like, what is this? Who are these people? Rebels comes after Clone Wars. Guess what? It's even better than Clone Wars. And that also is the story that Ahsoka, the new TV show, is picking up the threads of. But one thing that's cool about Filoni is that, and Disney, is that like Clone Wars ends, and then in the sequence, this is kind of, it ends like right when Anakin turns dark, right? It coincides with Revenge of the Sith, the prequel movie. They kind of happen simultaneously, and then, you know, Rebels occurs, and Rebels is kind of the precursor to the actual rebellion that ends up being the New Hope. But there's this gap of time where you're like, well, what happened in the middle
What
between
about Rogue
Darth
One?
Vader?
What about Rogue One?
That's what I'm getting into. So yeah, after there's a gap, right, and then there's Rogue One, right, and then New Hope. But there's a gap between Rogue One and Revenge of the Sith. Boom, Bad Batch. That's why they dropped it, because Bad Batch, it occurs exactly in that vacuum where like the Dark Lord has taken over, now it's the Empire, and then Rogue One, which is like the beginning of the rebellion, right in that kind of limbo is the chaos world where Bad Batch occurs. So I think that's why they made that show. And the Bad Batch makes sense to happen in that period, because the Bad Batch were these clones who had like genetic abnormalities that gave them powers, but they also were missing the chip that the Order 66 at the end of Clone Wars and in Revenge of the Sith, the prequel movie. That's how Palpatine, aka the Dark Lord, takes over the universe, because he has this chip in the clones' heads, and at a certain point when he invokes it, they turn against the Jedi. But the Bad Batch didn't do that because they don't have that chip. They're watching all their brothers fighting the Jedi, and they're going, what's going on here? So it's a perfect kind of like connective tissue to get to the rest of it. But, you know, kind of nerdy stuff going on here. Our show isn't all just nerd, you know, nerd mania. So looking forward to the next episode from Bill, where we'll probably get back into some more traditional cinema.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.